Hello and welcome to Lesson 2 on the phonology of Avestan. In this lesson we are going to look at the special features of the Avestan texts as representing the phonetic rather than the phonemic shape of the language, and discuss some dialectal features of the sounds represented by the script. We saw in Lesson 2 of the introduction that the Avestan texts are a heterogeneous body of literature and date from different periods. Grammatically too, the language of the Avesta is not uniform. Although the tradition that has survived is the local tradition of the province of Pars, dialectically the language of the Avesta is certainly not Southwest Iranian. The texts that were committed to writing in southwestern Iran testify not only to a set of sound changes that characterize the Avestan language, but also to numerous exceptions from what is expected according to regular Avestan sound developments. Such irregularities point to the influence of the oral traditions of different regions on the pronunciation of the Avesta. In addition, there are dialectal phonetic features which cannot have been present at the time when the texts were composed, but must have entered the pronunciation of the Avesta in the course of the long period of its oral transmission. In fact, we shall see that the influence of local dialects on the pronunciation of the Avesta continues up to recent times. Thus, we are able to allocate the dialectal influences on the phonetics of Avestan to different periods. So, let us look at examples for local features in Avestan. There are some very old local dialectal influences which affect the pronunciation of the Avesta even in old Iranian times, and they are present in all our manuscripts. For example, let us look at the form of the genitive singular of the word for sun, which is Old Avestan hwang. This form occurs 3 times in the gathas, and each time it needs to be pronounced as disyllabic hwang. This word here is metrically disyllabic. Thus, we read in the stanza, in one of the 3 attestations, in Yasna 44:3, Kasna hwang stramcha dad adwanam. And so Kasna hwang counts as 4 syllables. 1, 2, 3, 4. However, the initial hwa is not what we expect according to regular Avestan sound laws. Being the genitive singular of the heteroclitic neuter stem huvar, huvan, sun, the expected Old Avestan genitive singular is hwang. That the latter form, hwang, really existed is shown by Young Avestan hu, this form here, which goes back via huver to our expected Old Avestan form hwang. And this form hwang in turn goes back to a Proto-Avestan form hwang. The Young Avestan form, thus, is not based on our extant Gothic form, but on a form that shows no h instead of the expected h. The expected form hwang, however, is not found in the older Avesta at all. Instead, we have this form with the initial hw in all 3 Gothic passages. The unetymological hwa in the Old Avestan form hwang is just one of several examples of initial hwa for unaccented hwa, which would be expected. Other examples are trisyllabic Old Avestan Hwathra from Huvathra, and Young Avestan Hwastra from Huvastra, which means having good pastures. To the latter also belongs the river name Hwastra in Yasht 1967, and this is the name of a river that flows into Lake Hamun in Sistan, and probably it is this river here, Harut. So here we have this map of the area of Sistan, in which one of these rivers, which shows this dialectal feature Hwa, is located. In addition, there is also another word which shows unexpected Hwa, and this is the name of the region of Arachosia, which is located in the area east of the Helmand River Basin, in this area here. Since this non-Avestan dialectal feature appears in the very name of Arachosia, and since it is also found in the name of a river that flows through the area of the Helmand River Basin, Karl Hoffmann has attributed this particular feature to the dialect of that area. That Arachosia and Drangiana, which is this area here, that is the area which later became known as Sistan, plays a pivotal role not only in the transmission of the Avesta, but also in the Avestan texts themselves. That is clear from the Avestan Samyatyasht, which names several of the rivers that flow into Lake Hamun, which is also mentioned in the Avesta as the Lake Konsauya. This is also the area where events of the Zoroastrian eschatological myth are located. Thus, according to the Samyatyasht, the future victorious Saoshyant, who will defeat all evil in the world, is said to emerge out of that Lake Konsauya, Lake Hamun. Some of the features of Avestan eschatology could thus have been developed in this very area, and it would therefore not be surprising that the local language of the area of the Helmand River Basin actually influenced the pronunciation of the Avesta as we have it today. Another local influence in the Avestan language probably comes from Old Persian. This is the pronunciation of a consonantal y and w after a consonant and between vowels as iy and uv. And this is then written as ii and uu in the Avestan script, and it's one of the features which give the transliteration of the Avestan text such a curious feature with these internals ii and uus. For example, the Avestan word anya, which is Old Persian anya and Vedic anya, and Avestan haurva, Old Persian haruva and Vedic sarva, corresponding of course to Vedic sarva, represent phonologically anya and harva, and this is borne out by Vedic anya and sarva. Since such a feature is also found in Old Persian aniya and haruva, Karl Hoffmann has suggested that the pronunciation of post-consonantal and intervocalic consonantal y and w as iy and uv is a dialectal feature of Old Persian and entered the recitation of the Avesta in that area, that means in southwestern Iran and in Achaemenid times, and has persisted up to the present day in the transmission of the Avesta. That the influence of the pronunciation of of Avestan on what is written in manuscripts continued as long as manuscripts were copied is illustrated by the spelling of long I, E for U, in manuscripts copied in Kerman and Yazd from about 1700 or even a bit earlier. While Avestan has no sound change, U to E, the local Persian dialect of the Zoroastrians, of Kerman and Yazd, of the last 400 years or so does show such a change, and this then affected the pronunciation of the Avesta. So here we have the example from two manuscripts. One is the manuscript K4, Avishtaspiasht Sade, in the Copenhagen Library, Royal Library of Copenhagen, this manuscript was copied in 1723 in Kerman, and here you can see the words. It's Viswa Mrau T. This E here is expected. It's Vidwa. It's Viswa. It should be Viswa, but here this manuscript has a long A. Viswa. The long I is expected, but the second word, it should read Maro Tu, but instead they write Maro T. So the distinction between E and U was lost. They write the same sound, the same sign. You can see that here, both for E and U. Another example is from the Yata Ahu Vairio prayer. Here they write Yasa Ahi Vairio instead of Yasa Ahu Vairio. And so on. There are numerous examples for this. The influence of local traditions on the sound of the Avesta is also found in a unique document from Central Asia, the so-called Sogdian Ashem Vohu prayer. This document was discovered in Dunhuang. This is located here in this area. Dunhuang is located here in this area. Dunhuang was one of the Silk Road's easternmost cities and had a substantial Zoroastrian population in the 8th and 9th centuries of the Christian era. The document was found in 1907 in the largely Buddhist context of the Mogao grottos, which are also known as the Caves of 1,000 Buddhas. Of particular importance was cave number 16, from where a small door leads into cave 16. From cave 16 to cave 17. And this is the door, is this door here, as you can see. And when entering through this door, the explorers found a room packed with about 40,000 documents in a wide range of languages, including Sogdian. And this is where our Sogdian document was discovered. On this slide you can see Paul Pelliot, one of the explorers, reading documents here, and you can see he's reading them at candlelight. The Sogdian Ashem Vohu prayer was then acquired in 1907 by Sir Orlstein and taken to the United Kingdom, where it is now kept in the British Library. Now let us just have a quick look at this prayer. Here you can see the reproduction of it. You have seen it earlier in one of our earlier lessons. It's the first two lines of this document. Here, these two lines, lines 1 and 2, which give the text of the Ashurmwohu prayer in Avestan language, but written in the Sogdian script. And this is a unique instance which testifies to the fact that Avestan language was actually written also in other scripts, here in the Sogdian script, although it is one of the most frequent prayers of the Zoroastrians, and we don't know how much else was written of the Avestan texts. But certainly here we do have an Avestan language in the Sogdian script. However, it needs also to be kept in mind that the prayer here occurs in the context of a story which is being told. The story is that Zarathustra comes and he approaches Ahura, a god called Azwag, the highest god, presumably a name for Ahura Mazda, in paradise, and he has a consultation with him after paying his reverence to Ahura Mazda. So the first line of this prayer starts with Ertem Vahu, in its resegmented form Vachestem Ishti Ushta Yushti. We would expect Ushta as Ashurmwohu Vahishtem Asti, Ushta Asti. That's how it is in standard Avestan. You can see here that the beginning, the first 3 letters of the document are lost, and they are restored here. And the word which we are particularly focusing on right now is the word for Asha, truth or order. Usually these are some of the translation words for this word, which is almost impossible to translate. While in line 1 of the Zarathustra fragment, the word Ertem is, the first 3 letters of the word Ertem are restored. Here in line 2, we actually have it attested twice, 2 times more. One's here and the other one is here. And each time here we have the initial sounds clearly marked. And what is important here is that the R is a vocalic R or That means the form which we have attested here is the 0 grade of the word for Asha, Ruta, just as we have it in Old Persian and in Vedic. So this is an important piece of evidence which this unique document gives us linguistically, but also it testifies to the widespread use of Avestan language, Avestan texts throughout the lands which were inhabited by Iranian peoples, and amongst many different dialectal groups, here the Sogdians. This concludes our session on the dialectal features of Avestan pronunciation. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.